Welcome back to Pole Barn Garage, where we're back with the 64 Le Mans 4-speed car. What are we doing? Well, we got to finish the bodywork on this. It's been about a month since I've touched this. We did the SkyGo project, duct tape drags. Now, it's back to business. Where do we start? This bodywork is what I would call roughed in. Looks pretty good in primer, but it ain't perfect. We need to make it damn near perfect. You may be wondering, how are we going to make it damn near perfect? Well, right here, by blocking until our arms fall off. And I'm going to be using spray paint as a guide coat. You don't need to use anything fancy. Just use some color that will stand out as you're sanding. So we're going to tiger stripe the whole car, and whenever we start block sanding, anywhere where there's paint left, that's a low spot. And that will help guide our sanding process. We're going to pay special attention to the big flat open areas like the roof and the hood. Car is nice and tiger striped. You'll note that I did everything except for the deck lid. Why is that? Well, I found a deck lid in the form of an entire other car. Here's our replacement deck lid. I bought both of these cars for 800 bucks. This is a 64 Le Mans convertible. That's a 64 Tempest 4-door. This car is totally buildable. The 4-door is a 4-door. This has a really nice deck lid on it with virtually no rust. So we are going to steal it. I don't really want to steal it from this car, but they are basically unobtainable. And it's a really nice one. We'll put the 4-door stuff on this car and try to build a car out of it in a future video. Been a couple of days, had some other stuff to take care of. Let's get on this car at last. Kinda wish I wouldn't have put so much work into this damn thing. I mean, yeah, it's butch and it's completely destroyed, but the outside of it is really nice. Let's get this off of here, save it for a rainy day. Just in case you needed a reminder, this is why we're replacing this. Again, not too bad on the outside. Now, let me go pop off our new deck lid, bring it in here, bolt it to the car, and then we'll start working on it first. Two of the bolts broke off in this. Those are going to be fun to get out. Now to get these broken bolts out, I'm going to try the weld a nut to it method, which has never worked at any time in my entire life. So I'll weld a nut to this broken bolt, and then miraculously it's going to break free. Fantastic. I think I'm just going to drill these out and then re-tap the holes, actually. I used a left-handed drill bit. I got this one. It came right on out. So that one's good to go. I got a little off-center on that one and really screwed it all up. The solution there is to find a huge bolt, jam it in there, and then hope we never have to remove it. Modern problems, modern solutions. To get this on here, then I also have to weld up some trim on the back of it. But I figured it would be pretty much just as easy to do it on the car. I've been working on this deck lid for about an hour, and it's close to fitting right, but nowhere near fitting right at the same time. You know how when you watch TV car shows or the millionaire crowd, YouTubers, and this stuff just magically happens? Well, I got news for you. They're lying. The thing is, this deck lid is from a different car. Boy, they sure don't build them like they used to, right? Well, that's true. The gauge of the metal is a lot thicker. It's probably a better quality piece. But the thing is, you notice how every single one of the holes on this car or any other car are really big? That's so you can move it around like 3 inches in any direction. That's because the car and this deck lid are made completely different than the other car in the same deck lid. Quality control was not very good back then. The stuff doesn't always fit very good. So if you think you're just going to bolt stuff to a car and it's going to work, you're wrong. I need to loosen this latch here and adjust it down slightly. That helps quite a bit. But we're still low in this corner over here, and we're a touch high over here. Why? I have no idea. The thing is, you can't just read a book and know how to do this. You have to feel it and try 100 different things until you get her nailed down. And open up the trunk. We're low in this corner, so I'm going to put a 2x4 under this corner and just start to close the trunk. Not a lot, and I'm just going to move this 2x4 right along with it. I'm going to pinch the piece of wood between the car and the deck lid. The idea is that we make the deck lid fit. Why didn't you work it off the car? You could get all the rust out of it. You could finish this whole deck lid, put it on the car, and it won't even fit. Let's see if that did any good. Oh yeah. Now, how do we get this side low? That's an interesting question. I had to put shims on the hinges up here to get the front edge to match, and it's not bad. But we're a bit high right here. I'm going to demonstrate a really pro technique here. And it's fixed. No, not really. I gotta play with that some more. Now I gotta shift this thing a little bit to the passenger side, but not much. Not enough to loosen bolts. Just about a 1/16 of an inch. So I'm just gonna rock it and try to tweak the hinges that way. That's pretty good. And they got us about a 1/16 of an inch, but it looks like the trunk latch needs to shift that way slightly. Give it a little tweak that way. That is pretty good. I got a lot of this out where it's sticking up above the quarters slightly. But what the real problem here is that that hinge is sprung a little bit. So we take a 2x4, set it on top of there, get you something with some beef behind it. I can live with that. That's pretty good. I got that trim off the back here. We're gonna have to weld up all these little holes. Some of them kind of welded themselves as I ground the studs off. Burn those closed, then strip this thing to bare metal, start from square one here. And once this is roughed in, then we can go ahead and start our final body work on the rest of the car. However, it is Jess's birthday, so I probably need to take a break from this. Happy birthday, Jess. And we'll take you to the finest Chinese buffet in town. Just the kind of guy I am. Well, I've been piddling away out here this morning and noticing that this deck lid isn't quite as good as I thought it was. A lot of pinhole rust on this back lip here. Well, you know what I'm going to do about that? Nothing. Because I don't want to. I want to get the car done. So if I spend all day trying to cut and weld this out, I could do it. But realistically, it'll last probably 4 or 5 years if I just got it full of short strand. And that's good enough for me. I'm sure I'll want to paint it again by then anyway. I am going to show you how we're going to weld up trim holes. Now, this is something you're going to run across if you're ever painting a car. I take a ping hammer. Boom, he's pointed. Beat in just a little bit around the hole. I want to make it concave around the hole. That way we have just a little bit of room for a coat of filler to lay down in. What I do is fix it with a self-tapper. And no, not the traditional way. I'm going to put a self-tapper in from the back side like this. I'm going to hold it out, then I'm going to weld it in. And then I'm going to cut it off and grind it, and boom, your hole is plugged. You can use a nail or whatever. I just happened to figure out that these self-tappers are just about the right size. This don't got to be pretty, it just has to work. We're going to continue to do this all the way across until the whole thing looks like it's out of Death Race or something like that. Then we're going to cut them all off, grind it, glass it, fill it. Got to snip off all the tails here. Voila! That's all done. I'm going to grind out a bunch of this old body work here. There may be some pitting around here. We can spray like a rust converter over to make sure it stays away. But looking pretty good. Alright, I got the whole thing stripped to bare metal. I shot a little rust converter back here, which the dust kind of stuck to, but whatever. So I shot it in the little pinholes and stuff too. That's going to give it a little extra life. Now, I'm just going to take some short strand fiberglass, mix it up, pack those holes full of it. I'm just going to smear a little bit of it over each of those trim holes. Is it half-assed? Oh yeah. But it's an honest half. It's not a quarter-assed. And where this dent is real deep up here, I'm going to put a little bit in that too. That way it's not just all filler. That's where a lot of guys go wrong. Filler gets a bad rap. You just use it wrong. It's too thick. It won't hold up. But if you get a little short strand in there, now you've got something that's pretty damn strong. And I started spreading some filler up here. It's looking pretty good. But I noticed that the outer shell of this trunk lid is separated from the inner shell. That's why it's so rattly. So what I did on the hood was just use some window weld and just kind of injected it around here. It worked really good. So I'm going to do that again. I always keep window weld on hand. It's about some of the handiest crap you can get your hands on. Nice and solid now. I just want to reiterate something we covered in the last video on this car. I'm not going to go too deep into it because we already did it. But the front edge of this deck lid is wavy. It's ripply. You know, I don't know why, but that's just the way it is. Both sides. So I have a skin coat of filler over the whole thing. Why? Because I'm going to coat the whole thing. Now I'm not just filling in each divot. What I'm doing is blending the whole thing together. It's going to end up being a little bit higher than the sheet metal of the car. And I'm just going to sand it and be feeling it and blending it into the metal like I'm making a slope up to it. So minute that you probably don't even notice it, but you can feel it. And that's what I want to do. If you try to fill every low spot, it's still going to be ripply. You want to blend it all together, then coat it with a couple coats of primer to level it out. Just going to let that hang out and cure up. Let's start block sanding on the front of the car. Now, when you talk about block sanding, typically people are talking about a sanding block, and you flat sand the whole car to fill in low spots and imperfections. Well, I'm not stupid, and I like my shoulders and elbows, so I'll be using a board file for as much of it as possible. It's the same damn thing, and if you got a little common sense, you're not going to hurt anything by using this. Just in the interest of demonstrating, allow me to show you with the hand block what I mean. And also, if you don't have an air compressor, this is what you'll be doing. God, rest in peace, elbows. You're going to stay flat. Remember what I said about being flat? Flat. You're going to stay flat. So we're going to just work it. Short strokes. You don't want to do no long bullshit strokes like that. You'll just end up gouging the primer and end up making more work for yourself later. Do short strokes. That'll help keep your paper clean. And what I'm looking for is that black spray paint we sprayed on here. If it stays behind, that's a low area. Look right here. Starting to get a low area showing up right there. It's a good example. Boom. That. I can't even feel that, but you would damn sure see it in finished paint. Just knock down our primer around it and then blend the area until everything is nice and flat, or we break through. And it looks like I'm starting to break through up here. Yes, I am. So I just broke through to bare metal right here. So I can't go any further. I can sand on this all day long and I ain't going to get nowhere. So what we're going to have to do here is either recoat with primer again, which is probably what I'll do because this doesn't feel like much anything. We could take a little bit of icing and just wipe some icing over that, sand it down, and you're filled. But if you break through either to bare metal or your previous layer of primer, it's time to stop. Basically, I'm going to do that, but to the whole car. Well, I got this hood blocked out about as far as it can go for now. And man, I forgot what a piece of shit it is. I mean, it's got 8 miles of hail damage on it. We're going to have to do quite a bit of icing work on this. I'm starting to regret trying to fix it. You can't buy a Le Mans hood, but you can buy a GTO hood, and they're $1,300, plus the insert, which is another $300. So I figured I could save myself $1,600 and fix this. Probably something most people wouldn't bother fixing. Yep, there's another big ass one right here. There's something very important to note here. One, use a good glazing putty. You pull gold glaze, really good stuff. I like it. The other thing to note here, yeah, I'm going to be coating quite a bit of this in icing. The thing is, don't overwork it. You can pretty easily make a lot more work for yourself here if you're not careful. This is where knowing what the hell you're doing will help you. Pretty much anybody could get the car roughed in to the point I had it before. This is where skill comes in. And I am a little rusty. The thing is, you got to remember, you're going to be putting more primer down on this. At least another coat, and me probably 2 more coats of prime and block. That's going to get rid of a lot of these little dings. But you got to know what needs icing and what doesn't. I can't show you it, but I can feel like this area here got a big ripple in it. Coat of icing will get rid of that. There's a handful of dings. Blocking's not going to get rid of a ding. This is just an ultra fine body filler, basically. It sands very easily by hand, and it spreads very easily. You can't use it very thick. When you're using it correctly, you don't use it very thick. Just spreading a nice thin coat over this ripple in the hood here. This will help us get it straight. It's called flowable glaze for a reason. It's because it flows out, it goes on, just like icing on a cake. Buckle up and prepare for a hell of a lot of this, because this is bodywork. If you're a body guy, you know what you're looking at here. I mean, it's been walked on about 1,000 times, but I think I'm to the point where I could probably block it out, or I may even feather fill this whole hood. I guess I could block it one more time and see what it looks like. I got some weird spots, like a little low spot right here, and then somewhere over here I had like just the edge. Yeah, like this little transition here. I could use some spot putty there. Been blocking a bit on the roof here. Obviously I'm not even halfway done, but this is what it should turn out if you do a good job in your pre-prime work. This is really nice. Yeah, this roof turned out pretty damn good. One more prime and block coat on that and this is done. I mean, that's what, a 1/7 of the car is pretty good. This shit takes time. There's no getting around it. So if you want to dive into this, prepare yourself. You see, I found just a couple little pinholes in the filler back there. And it's a little bit wavy on this back edge. I might block that some more. But I took the roof sails down about as far as I could. Just a little bit of filler showing through here. It's pretty good. I mean, I'm very happy with how that turned out. A lot happier than I am with hood. Back out this morning. Got some work to do in my PVG sweater. Polebarmerch.com. See, I plugged my merch for once. I'm knocking down the spot putty, and what I've done with this is I'm just trying to smooth everything out, the little ripples and stuff all over the hood. And I got some on the deck lid too. This isn't ideal because you see, like right here, I've got filler around the spot putty. As I sand this spot putty, I'm sanding the filler too. So if you're not super careful, you can actually just end up turning one little ripple into 2 on either side of it. So, you know, if you're gonna do this, I would suggest not doing this. So I'm gonna do it anyway. And then we're gonna bury it in a bunch of primer and hope for the best. I didn't love how this deck lid was feeling, so I went ahead and just put a skin coat of icing over right in the middle there where people have been shutting it with their hands. In the middle, it's all kind of jacked. I blocked the top of that fender over there, and it turned out pretty good, actually. Now, it wouldn't be good enough for black, but we're painting the car like a light turquoise metallic. It's going to hide a lot, but I still want the car to be as straight as it possibly can be. So now we have to block top of this fender, and I remember both of these fenders were really, really bad. Gross. That's not good. You can see here, see the black spots? I can actually show you this. And this is blocking 101. That's a big low spot here, big low spot right there. Not too bad back here, but not ideal. You can tell I broke through here, I hit filler here. It needs more work. I think I'm just gonna skin coat that whole thing in icing, knock it down, and that should take care of it. we could compare that to this fender, which I broke through in a couple spots, but it actually blocked okay. It's not perfect, but I think another coat of primer will get this one. This one needs something additional. There we are. Coat of icing over that whole top of this. I'll be very careful when I flat sand it, and hopefully that straightens out a lot of it. Had a little bit of a ripple here in the wheel well where we fixed that rust. I'm gonna go back here, knock down this icing back here. Point of this being, if you can't multitask, you're not gonna get very far. So I've got to be able to do this and that and block sand the entire car all at the same time. One-man operation. And that's how most body work is done, is with one guy doing the car. Hey, you can see here, knock this icing down on the top of the fender. It's pretty good. I like it. I'm going to take it down a little bit further. I'm blocking away here, and I found a little ding right here. That's a prime example of why you block. That little guy stick out like a sore thumb. And if I saw that on a painted car, I'd go, wow, what a dumbass. Yeah, I've definitely never accidentally missed a ding. Definitely not. Front clip's done. This door looks pretty good. Just a little icing took care of a few little door dings. No big deal. And I called the fenders good enough. Just waiting for a little spot putty to clear up here. Well, that body work we had in this quarter looks great. And I just found a whole heap of dents back here. You can see right there, and down here. I mean, just a whole pile of them. So I'm just going to coat this whole area in icing and knock that down. Other than that, this quarter's, I would say, almost ready for paint, actually. It's very nice. I don't know how obvious this is, but this is what body work is. It's a lot of do something, see what's wrong with it, do it again. Always spread your filler or icing or whatever. Always go in the same direction. Otherwise, you can make air pockets. So just make sure you can go over it again. Just make sure you're going the same direction you were going. Blocking away on this quarter, and here's something to note. See how I've broken through to a bunch of icing and filler here? Well, that's okay. I'm going to keep going because I don't see any bare metal. You see that? That's a low spot. That's a low spot. What that means is it's actually high right here. This is too high. That's low. That's low. So if I knock down this filler and level everything out, then I don't have to add anything additional. I don't need to keep building. I can use what I have right here to make it level. This quarter's kind of a mess. It was a mess before, but I know there's a ton of primer on it, so I'm just going to keep blocking away until we get rid of, well, about halfway back. It was a real nightmare. Big low spot here, but we'll see how much we can block out, icing the rest. So I filed away on it. You can see I just started to hit a little metal here. So I'm going to stop before I make a big asshole out of it. And it completely got rid of this low spot over here. And then there's just a little bit of a ding right there. Just a little wipe of spot putty will take care of that. But I'm not even really going to worry about that until the whole thing's done. So that brings up another point. When you see things and you have a lot more work to do, just mark them. So if I just circle that, now I'll see it and remember it. We're blocked. All this came out pretty good. I like it. A little wavy down there, but maybe prime and block. The door turned out real nice. I just had this little spot here, just a little ding. We're ready to prime it. Let's go ahead and do that so I can block it again tomorrow. Tomorrow is Friday, so I can stay up later. And I should be able to block the whole car again. We should be done with fill work if we've done our job. I'm using a Summit Racing 2K urethane primer this time because I got it on some sort of discount. I'm not going to reduce it, that way we just build the shit out of it. And let's get to spraying. First things first, I'm going to hit the deck lid here because obviously it needs a little extra attention compared to the rest of the car. So I'd like to get at least 2 extra coats on this as opposed to the rest. because it's going to be playing catch up this whole time.
Good thing is this primer is a little bit different color. So whenever we start sanding,
we're going to be able to have like a darker gray and then the lighter gray under it. I'll be able to tell what layer is which. I'm going to do the same thing with the hood. I want to hit it separately a couple extra times because we know it's a problem child. The rest of the car is not too bad, but those two areas need extra help. The car's primed. It's got about 2 coats on all the bodywork, but I'm going to mix up 1 extra cup gun and hit all the areas that I know are kind of trouble spots. Again, so the hood, deck lid, and that driver's quarter. I'm using a lot more primer here than you really need to, but again, good bodywork is done in your primer. I think in between this and the final prime, I might do a coat of feather fill. We'll just see how good this turns out. If it looks nice in this coat of prime, then I won't do it. But if it ends up needing it, then we have the option to go ahead and feather fill it, and we'll make sure the damn thing is straight.
man, this thing's leaking water all over, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
Drain my compressor real good and tie a rag around that. You sure it's coming from here?
Yep.
Oh, yeah. Damn. It's all right, the primer, but if that was paint, we'd be repainting the car.
We're done. I see a big ripple in the hood right here. See it? Maybe catch it in the light. This hood is just AFU, man. Well, we're back out here. I've already tiger striped the car. Again, I ran out of black paint, so I do some blue here. Doesn't matter. Just something that stays behind in the low spots. This should be the last time we have to do this. If we've done a good job, I probably haven't. So let's get to work. You guys have seen this movie before. I'm jumping straight to the board file. Let's do the hood, because I know this is probably the worst thing on the whole car. And it's very inconvenient being, like, you know, up here, right in your face. That's not great. If you're gonna have a bad spot, you want it down low and out of the way. Oh, man. Look how bad this clogs. Jesus. That's terrible. Wow, that is some truly terrible product. Unless that's the paint doing that, the spray paint, I guess, but we just did this and that didn't happen. Using a DA now, and it seems to like that a little better, but that's really not the ideal way to get a straight car with a 6-inch DA. The problem with the 6-inch DA, it removes the black too quickly, so I can't really tell what I'm doing. Maybe if I break open that top layer, then I can use the board file. Otherwise, we're just gonna have to reprime the car. This is junk. I can board file it now, but I can tell you right away that at least this hood is gonna need a coat of feather fill. But at least we've built up some primer on top of it so that that feather fill will actually really adhere. Nothing here I'm feeling that like needs icing or anything. It's just barely perceptible little waves and lumps, and you're gonna see it. Well, you may not see it in the color I'm painting. Well, that doesn't really matter to me. I really want this car to be nice. I know it's kind of strange that I want to go the extra mile for something that your average person's never gonna see. So if you're doing this at home, you could stop at this point put a final coat of prime on the car and call it good. You wouldn't, actually, you could probably just sand this and paint it and it'd be fine. My main motivation here is, well, A, I really like the car, so I want to do a good job. But then B, man, so many comments just say, oh, you can't do it that way, or you can't do it, you know, you're a hack, blah, blah, blah. I've been doing this quite a while, and you know, you see a lot of hack stuff on this channel. That's because I know how to do it the wrong way, I know how to do it the right way, I know how to do it sideways. It's called versatility. It does irk me a little bit. People say that this is not how you do it, because this is absolutely 100% how any body shop does it. I just went to a body shop this morning. Guy had an orange Willys pickup, 53, and he just paid $16,000 for the paint job on this thing. And I'll be damned if it wasn't Kubota orange, and it had surf waves all the way down the hood and the sides. Now that's a hard truck to get straight because the panels are just really tinny. Still, $16,000? I'd rather show you how to do it at home for... this one we're going to have a couple grand in, but a couple grand in a paint job like this? And whole front clip's blocked. Nothing really sticks out to me. Just that little ripple in the wheel well. No big deal. Other than this, that's a dent. Now there's like a little shape to that. You know, it's supposed to be like that. Yeah, that's a dent. It almost looks like it's supposed to be there. So, especially for the side. Well, we're just going to call that a character flaw, because I don't want to... It's too late now. I'm not fixing it. Car's for me, okay? It's fine. This door is shaping up to be kind of a mess, though. This is all kinds of wonky in here. It was wonky before, too. It's getting better, but... Definitely going to have to shoot some feather fill on this door. But just... everything up here is beautiful. And that, my typical rule of thumb is halfway down. Leave it. And that's actually how they build new cars. You don't believe me? Look it up. If it's below the halfway mark on the car and you can't see it from about 6 feet away, it doesn't count because most people will never see it. I will though, and this would bug me. Not expecting any surprises out of this room, but I'll go ahead and lock it too real quick. Remember how I said I was kind of rusty? Definitely am. There's a ding right there, just hail damage. There, so I'm going to take some spot putty. I like 3M Acryl spot putty. The Acryl green is a little better, but the red is cheaper, so that's what I bought. The deck wood's actually not too terribly bad. There's just a few spots, the dings and stuff I missed. It's no big deal. Gotta remember we're playing catch up with it, so I am gonna use a little bit of icing. I'm gonna blend in this area here where that big dent was. I got this quarter blocked out. It's a great example of blocking right here. See the old primer right there, our new layer of primer. What we've done is leveled out this whole surface. And this all feels very, very good. You can see some filler there and some icing here, which is all nice and smooth now. Everything has been reduced to its lowest common denominator, so to speak, and feels great. So this quarter is excellent. That doesn't need any more work other than a coat of prime. Deck lid, little spot putty. It came out pretty good, but feather fill totally required here. It's got a bunch of little random dings in here. I just can't quite get them all, seems like. It's like I hit one and another one pops up. This quarter is concerning to me, so got to block it. And this door should be pretty much good to go. I've been going at this pretty hard. I'm hot, tired. I might just take off for a few hours and chill out for a minute. Then I'll come back out here later tonight, and after I see my family and stuff. But bodywork is kind of like prison, and you don't get to do that. Car's ready to rock and roll. Let's get our feather fill out. I've got 3/4 of a leftover gallon here. I used a little on the roof in the first video. I gotta burn it up anyway. The stuff don't keep very long. Basically sprayable polyester filler. You just dump it in your gun. 32 ounces of this mixes with one of these tubes here. It's your catalyst. It's just like hardener for body filling. Use extreme caution. I was very careful to sand all the edges on the car, and that's going to help me not build up too much, I hope. And then the other thing is, don't get it on you like that, son of a bitch, because it don't ever come off. I'm going to pour it right into my cup gun here. There's no reason to, there's no ratio, just 1 quart to 1 tube. And since we're probably going to end up using it all anyway, don't really matter. I'm assuming that's a quart cup. Typically they are. Sure hope so. This paint gun will be very, very dead after this. I don't even bother to clean them. You can. I just buy a cheap paint gun from Harbor Freight, spray it, then throw it away. As you're spraying this stuff, you are on a time limit. You got like 20 minutes. It's catalyzed, so it is curing in my gun right now. I am going to bury this car in this stuff. Alright, now I'm going to mask up because this stuff's really, really bad for you. Got 1 coat on all of it and 2 coats on most of the bad spots, but only 1 coat on the hood, which kind of sucks. Thanks a lot, Harbor Freight paint gun. You served me well. That's clean now. It's not great. That stuff was chunky. Remember what I said, that it doesn't last forever? That was very near the end of its life. It spit shit all over this thing. One thing this is really good at telling you is how straight is your car. Those wheel well lips look just fine. I was being overly paranoid. The hood is a different story. I really wish I could have got 2 coats on it. We'll see what blocks out, though. It may turn out okay. Roof looks great. Quarter panel looks great. You can see. You'd be able to see if there was something bad. There's a bit of a ripple right here. Deck lid, I don't know. I was able to bury it at least. Kinda. You can see it shrinking around all the filler. See all the crap that came out of the gun? That's not the gun's fault. That's the, that stuff was getting hard and plugging up the gun actively. That's just what it does, especially when it sits around. I stirred the shit out of it. I thought I got the chunks out of it, but I must have missed some. It'll serve its purpose. You're sanding it anyway. You have to sand this. You cannot paint over this. This has to be sanded and primed. That's why I was kind of iffy about doing it, is because, you know, so let's say I sand this, right? I prime it. I sand that primer and I break through to this. Guess what I have to do? I have to prime it again. I have to bury this underneath primer. This cannot show through to the paint, otherwise it'll shrink up around it. You know, little assholes all the way down the side of your car. Let's see who's been paying attention in class. What are we about to do for the rest of our lives? Block sand. Yeah, we're looking good now. See, these fenders have come out really nice. Anywhere where there's primer showing through, it's a little bit high. The feather fill is just acting to level everything out. The hood is actually pretty good. I feel alright painting it. It's alright. This fender is really, really nice. The roof is nearly perfect. I nicked it down here, though, with a board file. I do that from time to time. Anyway, I'm just going to keep on going here and hit this deck lid, see what the deck lid looks like. That's really our biggest question here. The rest of the car I know is going to be pretty decent. The deck lid didn't turn out too bad. A little soft on the body line here, so I just added a little spot putty just to give it a little more definition. This here is a bit of a mess. This is the only part that concerns me. It's not that bad, but I think one extra block coat gets that and it's done. So probably one extra coat of primer for the deck lid. Quarters blocked out real nice. This needs absolutely no work. It's perfect. Took a little bit of high spots off of that icing here. I might hit that with the board file one more time. Just got a little lump right there. No big deal. This quarter is really nice too. I did a lot of work down here. Flattened all that out. Pretty good. Everything feels really good on it. I like it. And our little body line back here, I knocked down that little spot putty. That's all it takes to make a nice crisp looking body line. Done. Let's shoot another coat of primer on the thing and see where that gets us. You gotta get another disposable out. It's like disposable razors. You know, just throw them away. There we go. Oh, they come with a bag now. I'm going to give any bare filler or bare metal an extra coat. That way I have a little better shot at not breaking through to it when we do a final sand. Now look, we're right back where we started. Amazing. Not really though. You guys have seen what bodywork looks like now. This is what it looks like. A whole lot of work to get right back to where you started. But we know underneath this primer, this car is straight. This is about as good as I can do. Everything you've seen is me using every ounce of experience I have. And here's what you get. I think it's pretty good. Well, we gotta let it cure up. Tomorrow we'll block this deck lid and then final sand. A revelation came to me last night. That revelation was, it's time to stop caring. So let's go ahead and shoot the door jambs of this thing and get ready to paint it. I'm tired of doing block sanding. I've been doing a lot of it if you hadn't noticed. Door jambs don't see nearly as much abuse or UV as the rest of the car. Therefore, they don't require as much prep. That's my excuse anyway. Basically, I'm going to knock this down, scuff it up, rough it up. Then we'll use a little rattle can primer, you know, then rough that up. And that'll be good enough. It'll hold up forever in there. It's fine. I got some single stage paint to shoot them with. So let's get started. When you're talking about jamming something, what you're talking about is the door, the jamb of the door, and also the bottom side of the trunk and the trunk gutter area. And also under the hood, but the underside of the hood is so rusty, I'm not even going to bother. We'll just paint that black. But like the lips of the fenders and stuff, you need to paint that now before you paint the whole car. And you want to do it before you do your final sand because you're going to get overspray on the outside of the car. What we could do is mask off the outside of the car and then spray them. But if I got to sand it anyway, I'll just spray it and I don't have to mask anything this way. So we have a little extra work to do. We got to peel all the rubber out of the doors. The deck lid already is missing the rubber and the hood is, but got to get the rubber out of these doors. It needs new seals anyway, so no big deal. Just a little bit extra work. Getting this old weather strip out of here can be a bit of a bitch. It presses down into a channel in the door on a sedan like this. Meaning it's a post car, not a hardtop. If this was a hardtop car, the weather strip would be in the door channel instead. I'll be here a while. God, it's like nails on a chalkboard. All my prep work in here is just kind of running over everything with some 180 grit and then a red Scotch-Brite. That's basically just going to clean it off enough that we can paint it. If you wanted to be perfectionist about it, you know, pull the panels off and paint them and then bolt them on the car. you wouldn't paint panels separately, because if it's a metallic color, it's never going to match. The car has to be painted in one piece. I'm going to professionally prime the underside of this. Ah, there we are. Now, I wouldn't even normally bother doing this, except for we are spraying a metallic, and because of that, you kind of need everything to be about the same base for a color. It's going to be kind of transparent. I'm not going to be able to just build paint up until it matches. We just start off with some spray can primer here. It'll be just fine. It'll help it stick a little bit, and it'll help our paint lay down better. Painting the underside of this hood would be a nightmare and a complete waste of time, because it's just nothing but rust pits. So satin black it goes, and then we'll put a hood insulator pad right over it and you'll never see it. Well, that's done. Now, like the hood hinges and stuff, I'm just going to leave them, and then we'll paint them after the car is painted, because they're going to get overspray on them about 100 times. Trust me, been here, done that. Go in there with some tractor paint, brush paint black, and detail everything after the car is painted. Well, I screwed up. I thought I bought an extra quart of paint, and I didn't. Never opened the box until just now. So I have 1 gallon of base clear, and that's it. That is not enough to do jams in a whole car. So what are my options? Well, here's the color it's gonna be. Here's the interior paint I have, and there's some Bahama Blue Metallic that I just bought. It looks different on camera. Actually, these two colors are more like each other than those two. What does this mean? I'm not waiting 2 weeks for more paint from this company, because nobody's gonna be able to mix that up, and if they did, it would cost me a fortune. Well, let's get creative, and if it doesn't work out great, then we can always back tape and then shoot the jams again later. But I want color on them, at least. I just bought this Bahama Blue Metallic at O'Reilly, right? This is a good base. So if we spray this down and then cover it with the dark aqua paint I have for the interior, it's probably going to be pretty close to the outside of the car. It's not going to be super shiny. I don't really care. It's a door jamb. If I'm going to do that, I may as well go ahead and paint the dash and everything. Let's go ahead and paint the dash. I was going to use this color on that anyway. Why is it spitting all over the place? Quality. Great. $30 a can. What do you expect? I already shook the shit out of this. Oh my god. What the hell? Apparently, do not try to hold these cans horizontally. Seems like a major design flaw to me, but what do I know? Anyway, this is the color I was going to paint all this stuff anyway, and since I have it out, I figured we may as well just go ahead and do this. Then we can mask off the dash when we paint the outside of the car. And then, while I've got it out, it will be sort of the same color on the door jamb. At least this part will look good. God bless! I'm serious. You hold this like that, it just starts spraying everywhere. This is garbage. Well, it looks better than the hole that was there before anyway. There's the dash. Looks pretty good. It's not great. Not super impressed with this stuff at all, especially for the price, but it'll work for interior paint. One good thing is, if I spray paint them, it's a hell of a lot easier, so I guess you gotta look on the bright side of things. You know, I thought this looked kind of shitty, so spray can clear. Look at that. Looks pretty damn good, as long as it doesn't wrinkle or anything. I don't think it's gonna. I tested a spot over there and it seemed okay. Looks alright. We might get away with this. That looks quite a bit better. A couple of coats of that, it's gonna look tremendous. Well, that's a bright spot here. I'll have to get a couple more cans. I was just kind of screwing around, you know, still wallowing in my sorrow of screwing up not ordering the paint, but that's gonna look really nice. Let's experiment, shall we? So this blue is much too blue, but it might make a good base. We just kind of make everything already a bright blue. When we put something else over it, At least the first couple coats are kind of going to reflect that, right? Probably fairly close to what it'll be. What if I just kind of... Ooh, hey, I think I got it. I'm not going to lie, this is working better than I thought. When you spray it on the primer, the stuff is pretty bright, actually. Especially out in the sun, like on that trunk lid. We might get away with this. This is a hell of a lot better than opening a door of your trunk and having gray primer showing, right? You know, the other thing is, whenever we actually go to put real paint on the car on the outside, a lot of it's going to blow into these gaps, and ideally it'll just kind of camouflage this and everything will just kind of look hunky-dory. Give it the clear job. It looks pretty good. That's like really impressive for spray paint. Professional. Jess is out here to help me, and our jambs are shot, professionally clear coated. It's probably fine. We've unmasked the car. Now it's time for the final sand. We're going to use 400 grit sandpaper, and we're going to stay very flat as we sand this, and we're just going to want it to feel nice and smooth. And we're going to stay about ½ an inch away from any edge. That way we don't break through. We do not want to break through to the feather fill underneath, because if we do, then I have to reprime. So we just stay flat, short strokes. If you do long strokes, you leave gouges in it, and it shows. Nice short strokes. See the grain of the primer. We want to pretty much eliminate that. It doesn't have to be perfect, because we'll go over it with a Scotch-Brite after this, and that'll help clean up any of that extra grain. But before we can do that, we got to cut the whole thing with 400 grit. Car's almost completely sanded with 400 grit, and now we have to blow it all off. We're going to hit it with red Scotch-Brites. That's going to get down in any pores or anything and just help paint adhesion. A red Scotch-Brite is a little bit more than 400 grit sandpaper. A gray Scotch-Brite is like 800 grit. Probably should have gone with gray, but the red will be fine. We're painting it a light color. I did a little bit more spot putty work just back here on the deck lid. There were a couple of chips, and this is okay. You'll get away painting over that. You just don't want any big areas of it. Scotch-Brite should get rid of anything we've missed, and also just provide a nice even surface. Scotch-Brite follows the same rules, just really short strokes, a little bit of pressure, and we're not trying to remove material, we're just trying to smooth it out. You can see a difference in the way it looks after you're done. Pre-Scotch-Brite, over here it's a little darker, and then where I've Scotch-Brited it's a little bit lighter.
Visit coasttocoastam.com on your iPhone or Android browser.
Hopefully this thing still runs. I got a bucket to sit on in here.
Oh, it's got bucket seats?
I don't think this bucket's gonna work. Sexy bucket. It's perfect. Alright. This is made even more difficult by the fact that it's 4-speed.
2,000 years later.
Well, garage is clean. Car is cleaner. We have to do our final prep tomorrow, but it's definitely a lot better than it was. Had some plastic laid down inside it, the trunk and the engine compartment, just to try to hold it in. Furnace filter around the gaps of the door so that that fan sucks everything out, acts like a cross flow booth. Should keep dirt to a minimum from coming outside, so it's kind of cool. We're all masked off. Got a little prep work to do with the wax and grease remover, and then it's time to spray. This is the most important part of your prep process. Use a wax and grease remover of some variety, and you wipe it on, you wipe it off. Get some on a rag, do one panel, and then wipe it off dry. This is the only Van Sickle product used in this one. Should go without saying, don't touch the car when you're doing this. That would defeat the purpose.
Yes.
The oils in your skin would be just like dumping a quart of motor oil. One time at work, a guy was eating a bunch of fried chicken in the paint department, and his hands are all greasy, and he was opening and shutting the doors on the car, and so about 1,000 cars had a big KFC handprint right on the door. That's bad. It's ready to go. Let's mix paint. I'm using Restoration Shop, which is a very cheap paint. I don't recommend it for a first timer. I don't even recommend it for me. This is a aquamarine. It's a fire mist. Very heavy metallic paint. You're going to want a decent gun to shoot this, and also more talent than I have. I've got an old DeVille Bliss here, and it's got a pretty good pattern on it. So this should do it. You got to be very careful when shooting a metallic paint, especially a heavy metallic. I haven't made this easy on myself, but let's see if I can pull it off. So this is a complete kit. You can buy these kits for, like this kit here was $429. That's everything. It's your reducer, your activator, your clear coat. The only downside I'd say is the paint isn't a very high quality. It lasts, the durability side of it, just fine. But the sprayability side of it, it varies greatly. Like, you can see how thin that is. I've shot these fire mist colors a few times, and it's always been just fine, but things have changed a lot in the last couple of years. Mix 2 to 1, 2 parts paint, 1 part reducer. The reducer, we're going to use a medium reducer because it's about 70 degrees outside right now. Technically, I think a slow reducer would be a little bit better, but this will work. Now, a smarter man would shoot a test panel before painting the entire car. But I'm dumb, so just going to jump right into it. My test panel will be the passenger side of the car because that side doesn't matter. Using a strainer with a metallic can reduce the amount of metallic in the paint, but there's so much of it in this stuff, I think we'll be alright.
I'm going to spread this fan out. Nice pattern. We're going to overlap about 75%. What we're trying to avoid is tiger striping it. So if we don't overlap enough, there'll be more metallic built up in between each pass. And we don't want that. So we got to lay it on very evenly. And that's pretty good. I don't see any striping. So it'll take 2 or 3 coats for us to get full coverage, but I think it's going to work out okay.
Mix up a couple cups of them just to have one as backup ready to go. Stuff isn't going very far. I'm glad we didn't try to shoot the jambs with it. I think there's enough to do the car, but that's about it.
you're shooting base coat, you're not trying to make the car shiny. So don't lay it on heavy. All we're trying to do is make it blue. That's it. So once we make it blue, then we put the clear on, then you make it shiny. We've got one complete coat on the car now. Now you're going to let it flash for about 10 minutes, which we've already done on the decorator. So I can go ahead and just keep painting until we get 2 or 3 coats built up. I'm not gonna lie, I didn't think mosquitoes would be our problem. There's like no dirt in the car, it's just mosquitoes. I'll have to bury it. What are you gonna do? They're painting in a barn. There's got to be mosquitoes, I guess. I've never had mosquitoes in paint before, but here we are. Just kind of fog it and let the metallic lay down on it. Yeah, that's pretty good.
I'm not opening the door, but I think it's covered. This is the amount of paint I have left. Like I said, this stuff's kind of thin. If you don't know what you're doing, get like Exalta or DuPont or a good brand, you know, not this. If you know what you're doing, you might be able to get away with it, and the emphasis there is on might. So the last coat of base on, I have to wait about 20-30 minutes or so before we clear it. I want all the solvent to pop out of the base coat. So it's, you know, I get to eat first time today. This is the lunch of champions right here. Egg and bacon, biscuit, and a cigarette.
I didn't even pat the grease off of the bacon.
Good. We used to be a proper country. Time to clear. We're going to do 4 to 1, 4 parts clear, 1 part hardener. We may reduce it. Let's see how it flows out. Sometimes you don't have to, sometimes you do. It just depends on the clear. I hate these cups because 4 to 1 only goes to here. It gives me like 3/4 of a cup. 3/4 of a quart, I should say. Stupid. We do 4, 16 to 20. Math.
Eventually, I figured out that 600 milliliters of clear to 150 milliliters of catalyst is 4 to 1.
Feels pretty watery, you know, because it's cheap. So we may not have to reduce. Now I do have some fisheye eliminator just in case we have problems with that. I hope we don't. Only use it like this is break glass in case of emergency stuff. By the way, clear coat contains isocyanate, and isocyanate can get into your lungs. It will harden in your lungs and you cannot get it out. At least wear a respirator. But really, in professional applications, you're going to wear basically a scuba setup to shoot this stuff.
Now with clear coat, you got to lay it on wet. Your first coat can be kind of dry just to help the other coat stick, but you got to lay it on wet. How you lay this on is how it's going to dry. So if you don't want to spend the rest of your days wet sanding, you got to be a little ballsy with it. I'm going to see if it's ready for another coat. It's a little bit wet yet, but it is tacky. We could probably get away with it. Famous last words. I only have one cup gun left. We have 2 full coats on the car. It looks great. I mean, it's totally fine. There's just not a lot there to wet sand if we need to. So I'm going to put an extra coat on the deck lid and anywhere else where I think we'll have to do some extra wet sanding. But it's really just that deck lid that has the most of it.
I shot an extra coat on the deck lid and both rear quarter panels. Now we just play the waiting game. We'll go check it out later once it dries. Looks pretty good. No runs. It's dry to the touch. It's definitely not cured, of course. 40 million bugs. I hate that. We're definitely going to have some wet sanding work to do. That's kind of unfortunate, but it is the way it goes when you're painting at home. You're just probably not going to get a pro result. Now, what you can do when you run into this is wet sand and polish, which is what we're going to do. You could wet sand the car and then re-clear, which would be a perfectly good option as well. But I don't want to do it. I mean, it looks plenty good enough for me. It's got a good gloss to it. I just wanted a nice driver, you know, and this will be, well, it'll be a pretty nice driver. I'll probably pull it out in the sun tomorrow. Outside, it's going to look ridiculous. This flake is crazy. I mean, it's pretty wild. It's more green than you see on camera. It doesn't quite come through. It's, you know, more blue-green. It's really nice, though, especially with the Kragers. These are my door jambs. It's different, but it's not like that much different. I can live with it. Good enough, but we need to quit messing with it, otherwise I'm gonna screw it up. So let's just leave it.
It's so cool.
So like you guys can see that the hood doesn't have quite the same sheen as the trunk. That's because I came out here and put that third coat on the deck lid, because I figured we need to wet sand, and all the overspray settled on the roof and hood. Real light 1500 grit wet sand and polish brings that right back. That's a problem for about 1 to 2 weeks from now. In the meantime, we can at least start to put the car back together. Well, I can't resist myself. I already started putting trim back on, but let's pull it out and see what it looks like in the daylight. That's like bass boat flake. Damn. It looks perfect outside.
Yeah.
I got a little, it looks like I missed a ding. Probably being kind of hard on myself, I guess.
A little bit.
It's pretty good. It's not the best car I've ever painted, but it's pretty good. Yeah, I won't be embarrassed to drive that at all. Well, there you have it. It's another pole barn paint job. It's kind of average, you know. You know, beats the hell out of patina. You know, would you rather drive this all rusted and beat to shit, or spend a couple of weeks and there you have this? Looks better than 90% of cruise night cars out there. If I had a paint booth to paint in, it'd be perfect, but I don't. I got a barn. You don't have a paint booth either. So, well, most likely. You're gonna have some dirt. I'm gonna show you how to fix it, probably in the next video. We also have a whole bunch of interior work to do. We're gonna finish this restoration of this car. We're gonna do it at home, and then we're gonna come in under about 12 grand in the car, including purchase price, which you couldn't buy that car for $12,000, even as it sits right now, I can tell you that. Not with that color on it. I don't mean to brag too much, but you know, it's probably a 6 out of 10. Oh, and one other thing that's going to keep me from reassembling the car like right away. The windshield is on back order, unfortunately. I ordered one. I don't know when it'll be here, but definitely need a windshield before we can like finish the car. So got that coming. I have everything else, I think, We'll find out. You know, this is a sponsor-free build. I haven't taken a single sponsored part for it, nor will I. So go to polebarnmerch.com and you know, just buy a shirt or some stickers or a hat or a lighter or fuzzy dice, or, well, we have pretty much everything over there, actually. You know, it helps fund stuff like this where we don't have a bunch of companies and corporations in it. This is everything you see here is this is what I can do, period. No fancy bullshit. This is the top of my game right here. So just, you know, if you want to support that, go to polebarnmerch.com, or don't, I don't care. Anyway, we'll see you next time.